how about if we consider that in Burlington, there are people living in the swamp out behind Hannaford, and that's probably the poorest of the poor. And then there are the working class, and who rent their apartments. And then we get up a little higher, and we have the middle class that have extended themselves to buy houses that are too big for them and that are going to be foreclosed. Is it right to give the money to the middle class, and the renters and the people living in the swamp, they get nothing?
Well, notice I said that the people at the very top, we have to figure out where we're going to draw a line and not finance them. And so the balance of that could be used to give assistance to those people who are homeless or renting. And I want to understand, I consider this a step not as far as I would like to go. This is someplace in the middle road to just prevent homelessness and to make sure that everybody has at least access to a roof over their heads with cooking and the basic needs of shelter, like a cook stove and so forth. But it's not the place where I actually want to be. I want to see housing become a national right, not that it's something you have to pay for. You could pay for it, but everybody should have housing as a national right.
Traditionally, in the socialist and Marxist countries, housing has been free for everybody, hasn't it?
Well, that's occasionally true, or sometimes true. But in Iraq, which was a dictatorship, but it was a dictatorship that has a socialist cast to it, people could own their own houses, but they got their electricity for $1 a month. They got those household like services for trash collection and things of that was free, and not free. I hate to say free, paid for through taxes. So that's a different. That's not always the same in a socialist setting, but very often housing is free. In the Soviet Union, in most of the big cities, housing was free, and that only came as a result after the Second World War. And it should be. I mean, people talk about, when I was in college, we had this study, is it freedom or security? Because the more secure you have, the less freedom you have. And my view of it is you have no liberty at all when you're not secure. If you're living in fear, you have no liberty. You make decisions based on the wrong judgment. And there's an old sort of homily from socialism that says, vote your hopes, not your fears. But everything we've done for the past, at least since '90, is based on fear. Get them before they get us.
And Jane, what do you think about this? If you get into the Congress and replace Peter Welch, you may have an opportunity to vote on the next $700 billion bailout.
Well, I would vote against it.
I would hope so.
Because I think that, as Peter said, most of the money will end up in the hands of the people who are already too wealthy. The people that can buy 500-foot yachts will buy just one more, and the homeless will stay homeless. And I also wanted to point out that Peter Welch, during the time that the bailout was going on and people were thinking only about the bailout, there was another bill in Congress which was giving money to the Pentagon, and Peter Welch voted for that also. And I believe that, according to what I read by Chalmers Johnson, the bill, this year's military budget, which includes everything from the supplements and all the things that go with the military, for the first time, 2007, 2008, it's going to be, for the first time in history, over $1 trillion for 1 year. Now, we're worried about the $700 billion being given to, at the same time, underneath that all, we're giving more even to the military, which just means we're killing people or having our own soldiers killed. That gap, the distance in a way. Down here, nobody was recognizing what was going on. Up here, everybody was worried about domestic policy, and which we should worry about. But underneath, something worse was happening. And to me, there's a very dangerous kind of split in people's thinking or not thinking. You put foreign policy over here. You put domestic policy over here. And think we're going to fix the roads and we're going to do all these things. We talk about all the things we're going to give homes to the homeless. But we won't have any money at all because it's all going toward the foreign policy. And people, even in debates, you hear somebody talk about the war a little bit. And then all of a sudden we're over here with domestic policy talking about the roads. And I don't know. It's a contradiction, and it can't, you know.
It's guns and butter.
It's guns or butter.
Yeah, and
that's right.
they would give us guns and butter when you can't have both. And we've learned, I mean, Johnson invaded the Social Security Fund to carry on the war in Vietnam. And now the Social Security Fund is getting invaded over and over and over again for wars. And then they come out and they say, oh, Social Security is in a dangerous position now. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, you put it there. Okay.
Well, I think
let's take away the war, the money we spend on war, and there are other ways to solve the Social Security thing, too. I mean, take the cap off. And people don't pay Social Security tax on all their income. If you happen to be living on dividends from stock, you don't pay Social Security on those dividends. You don't pay Social Security. And you could make $1 million in those areas or more, and you don't pay any Social Security tax. So we should not just taking the cap off on wage earnings or salaries is not really the answer. The answer lies in making all income subject to Social Security tax. And until that happens, as governor of Vermont, I'm going to recommend that the legislature get that money through straight taxation to finance what we need in Vermont.
But it has to be a proportional tax so that the rich pay their share.
I'm only talking about the Social Security gap.
Okay, well,
okay, that won't turn out that everybody pays a flat rate in that.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking about asking them to pay a flat rate. I mean, this is as conservative as you can get. This is a Forbes tax that I'm talking about. Let's get at least as conservative as Forbes. Make them pay an equal rate on all their income.
And Jane, you have two opponents in the upcoming election, right? You have Peter Welch and the progressive candidate,
Thomas Herman.
Herman.
Yeah.
And the Republicans aren't running anyone, are they?
No, they're not.
There's at least one other. That's Chris.
Oh, Chris
Erickson.
Erickson. That's right. She's
I don't
Chris
know
Erickson.
if I don't know if there are any independents.
I don't know either.
What party is Chris running on?
Well,
The marijuana party, the legalized marijuana. It's a sort of an outshoot of the former grassroots party in Vermont.
Okay.
and it's a minor party, so she doesn't get invited to all the debates.
Right, but Liberty Union is a
Major party.
major party, one of the four major parties in Vermont. I think that's important for us to note because it's really, there's no excuse not to invite Liberty Union to a debate when it's considered equal to the Republican,
Yeah.
Democrat, and progressive parties.
Unfortunately, they don't see it that way. I mean, I attended a debate for major party candidates for governor in Brattleboro, and I was not invited, even though I was a major party candidate.
You know, I'm absolutely wrong, and I don't remember things well enough anymore, but Jerry Trudell is